All right, Darksiders. So the reboot for Mortal Kombat has dropped on HBO Max. I did see it. I actually saw it twice, and I want to share my thoughts with you. And I have one big looming question that I want to put before you with this. So let me just share my overall thoughts about this. I thought when it opened, I was impressed. I thought it was actually pretty good. I love that opening scene. I love that whole sequence, and we get an idea about the adversity between Sub-Zero and Scorpion and how Scorpion actually becomes Scorpion. I love that, and I thought that we were going to track that storyline and get a bit of a deep dive into those characters in this film. But that's not what happened. Instead, we take this weird twist and the movie focuses on a new character that no one knows who he is, called Cole Young. And I didn't really understand that. Now I'm going to share something with you that gives us some insight as to why the producer did that. And the question is, does it actually work? But before we get into that, let me share just my overall thoughts about the different elements of this movie. I thought that the world building was cringeworthy. I thought that the writing was bad. I thought that the performances were bad as well, which is interesting because you have some solid actors in this movie. And I also thought that the set design was bad. And I guess that's part of the world building if you want to include that all together. The sound design, all of it was bad, except for some sequences of the fight choreography. You know, I'm really big on that. Some of that I thought was really good, but even a lot of that I thought was bad as well. I think this film just misses the mark on so many levels. Now, I do have to say, I do give the film a bit of a visual pass because I feel like the budget of $55 million for a film like Mortal Kombat is not nearly enough. When you're talking about Mortal Kombat, think about this. You're talking about a massive fantasy world with all of the different characters, all of their different abilities, the look of Outworld. It's really hard to pull off something like that with a $55 million budget because you have to invest so much into the visual impact of the film, and that's not cheap when you're talking about a world build such as Outworld and the Mortal Kombat universe. That takes a lot of money, and they just didn't have the cash to pull it off, and it shows visually, in my opinion. Now, let's jump to this new character, Cole. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out why he was there. I'm thinking to myself, you don't need him to introduce Scorpion. Everybody knows who Scorpion is. Why is he here? He felt like just a plot device to bring Scorpion into the movie, but I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This is a weird occurrence here. What's going on here? But then I read something from the show's producer, and this is what he said about why they introduced the new character, Cole. I want you to listen to this. It's a little bit of a long read, but I want you to listen to this. It's not that long, actually. And let me know if you think they needed to bring him in for the reasons that I'm about to read to you, and whether or not you think he worked. I'm going to tell you after I read this what they should have done, in my opinion, that would have really given this film some life and made people itching to see more from the Mortal Kombat universe, if that's what you want to call it. After the Marvel universe, everything is like the Monsterverse, the DCEU universe. So we're giving that same benefit to Mortal Kombat as well. So listen to this statement. And this is what the producer says. So the producer's name is Garner, and let me scroll down here. I think we're going to start here. We're not going to read all of it. So it says this. Actually, no. Let me go up. All right, let's start here. It says, but overall, the reboot does its own thing, as the gargantuan continuity of the Mortal Kombat franchise would be too daunting for newcomers. Garner explains, how are you able to have somebody come in, sit down in the theater, and watch this movie and not be completely confused by the unbelievable lore that Ed and John, Tobias, the other creators have created over 30 years? Garner compares trying to grasp franchise's deep lore as a newcomer to showing up for Avengers Endgame without seeing any of the previous MCU films. Audiences would have no idea what was happening. Every installment in the game series also introduced new characters, so there are dozens of them. Plus, there were outrageous cameos from characters from other franchises like Rambo, the Joker, Freddy Krueger, Spawn, and the Terminator. If I could spend 9 hours like they did in WandaVision just with 2 characters falling in love, I'm in, Garner says. However, the project was only greenlit as a lone feature film. Would I love to make the Snyder cut of this movie and have it 4 hours and have it and have it be 4 hours? Sure. But my goal is to tell every story and tell it well and tell it honestly. So here's what they did to try and solve the dilemma. I guess what they're saying here is that they had to create a film where, you know, the outcomer or the newcomer, should I say, could sit down and enjoy it and understand what's going on. Not just give a film that plops the newcomer in this world of lore that he or she has no understanding of. They'd be totally lost. So this is what they do to try and fix that. So here's what he says. He says, to solve all this, Mortal Kombat adds a new character who discovers this universe along with the audience. Cole Young, Lewis Tan. Shout out to my man Lewis. We love him from Into the Badlands. Woo, he had a fight scene in Into the Badlands that was vicious. Oh my gosh. All right, let's keep going. With so many popular characters already on the roster, a new one may seem superfluous, but Garner says that the difference here is that players are invested in all the previous characters because they have played them. He knows that longtime fans would feel that their favorites were poorly represented, especially if they weren't in the lead role. Cole is the audience surrogate because he doesn't know anything, Garner explains. He has no backstory in the game. We just needed a character that was a cipher that came in and went, okay, I'm going to connect the dots between the fans and the non-fans so that by the end of the movie, we're all in the same place. So now we know why the character of Cole Young was there. He was a bridge. For those that might not know anything about the lore of the Mortal Kombat franchise, he was that bridge for them to be able to sit in, coming in brand spanking new and say, okay, I understand now what's going on. I'm filled in, and that's why he was there. The question is, was that necessary? I'm going to tell you no. And here's my thoughts why. The Mortal Kombat franchise or the Mortal Kombat world is so big that it really didn't matter if you didn't really understand the depth of the lore in the world. Now take Lord of the Rings, for example. How many people that love the Lord of the Rings that are younger read Tolkien's books? Probably not a lot of them, but they still enjoyed the movie. So my thing is, you can put newcomers into this expansive world, and you don't have to explain every instance, every nuance of this world. But they can learn about the world as they move through the movie. And if you make this first reboot and it's really good, that sets you up to tell more detailed and more character-driven stories as you move on. Now, having said that, I think it would have been much more effective to actually have this whole film focus on the characters of Sub-Zero and Scorpion and talk about their rivalry and how they came to be who they are presently in the Mortal Kombat ecosystem. That would have been much more interesting. And really all you needed to do was tell a story that was so engaging. Even if I was a newcomer, I was fascinated by them. I wanted to know more about now the world that they live in after this movie was done. And then that's enough to draw fans into the world of Mortal Kombat and introduce them to all the other elements and things like that. And had they done that, I think this movie would have been much more enjoyable. Now, I have no idea what the fan response is to this. Maybe people love it. I did not love it. Those are my thoughts on Mortal Kombat. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you guys down in the comments for the next hour. Peace. My fingers are still. You know what I'm trying to do. Peace.